Welcome to this platform. So this video is a full coverage of chapter 2, Organization of the Organisms. That is for IGCSE Biology 0610 for the exams in the year 2026, 2027, and 2028. That is for both core and extended. So if you are writing these exams, this is the lesson for you. And of course, at the end, we are going to do the questions based on the topic. All right, so organizations of the organisms. What do you need to know about this one? So let's start. All right, so under organizations of living organisms, the first part that we want to look at is the cell structure. Okay, the cell structure. So what about the cell structure? Now, in terms of a cell structure, we look at both the plant and both the plant and animal cell. Now you know that the cell is a building block of life, or the smallest unit of life. So to start with, we look at the plant and animal cell. So let us label the parts. I guess you've watched the first part, that is characteristics and classification of living organisms, because there we did also look at the cells. But anyway, so this outer part of this animal cell is called the cell membrane. So this is the animal cell this is the animal cell. Then of course this other one is the plant cell. So this outer part is the cell membrane. Then you can point at this as the mitochondrion. So this is the mitochondria or chondrion. Then of course this one is the nucleus. I'm putting them here because I want to also look at what they have in common with the plants. Then of course here these are endoplasmic reticulum, so I'll just put ER, but what is important are these parts that we have looked at, that the cell membrane, the mitochondria, the nucleus, and also I can point at these as the ribosomes. So these tiny things inside as ribosomes. Which other part can I point at? So these are the parts that we can look at. Now, on the plant cell, this is the mitochondrion as well. Then now, the inside part is the vacuole, but I'm going to point at the nucleus as well. So that is the nucleus. So this inside part is the nucleus. Then we have this also, these are Golgi apparatus. So let me just label this as the chloroplast. So we have the chloroplast. Then we have the endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, endoplasmic reticulum, of which we have the rough one and the smooth one. How do you know it's a smooth or the rough? Because of the presence of the ribosomes. So you find also tiny things freely suspended here, which are called ribosomes. Okay, ribosomes. Then which other part can we talk of? The other part that we can talk of is this large part, which is the vacuole. Now, it's very important to know the parts that are found in both plant and the animal cells. So this is the vacuole. Now, the chloroplast, the vacuole, and the chloroplast, the vacuole, and the outer part of the plant cell is known as the cell wall. So the cell wall, the chloroplast, the vacuole, these are normally, or these are just found in plant cell. So what you need to know from here are the parts, what part they have in common, the plant and the animal cell, and what they have, the difference that they have. Of course, the plant cell has more parts compared to the animal cell. And the extra part that it has, which the animal cell does not have, is the chloroplast, the vacuole, and the cell wall. As we look at the questions, these questions or these parts are very important in differentiating the two cells. Very important. I guess you've gotten something up to this point. The cell might not come as this, but very important to understand the parts that they have in common and also the parts that they have, what makes them different. Now, let us look at the functions of the parts. So, to look at the functions of the part or structure of the cells, we focus mainly on the nucleus, the mitochondria, cytoplasm, ribosomes, and cell wall, chloroplast, and vacuole. These mainly are the ones that we focus on. So to start with, we are going to look at the parts that they have in common. So one, plant cell and animal cell, they both have the nucleus. Now, what is the function of the nucleus? So the function of the nucleus, you can say it contains genetic material that controls the cell. So you can say it contains genetic materials that controls the cell. Or you can say it stores it stores DNA and control all cell activities within the cytoplasm. So any of these, the function of a nucleus is contain genetic material that controls the cell, or it stores DNA and controls all cell activity within the cytoplasm. Then the mitochondria, that is where aerobic respiration take place. So the key thing, aerobic respiration take place, or that is where energy is produced. These questions or these parts, very important that you understand their functions, because in questions you find these part. Now, it provides necessary energy for the cell functioning. So the mitochondria is where aerobic respiration takes place, and it provides necessary energy for cell functioning. What about the cytoplasm? It is a jelly-like substance where chemical reactions take place. So that is where chemical reactions take place. And this is where all other cell organelles are found. Parts of the cell such as the nucleus, such as the chloroplast, such as the mitochondrion, all of them are found in the cytoplasm. So sometimes you find the question such as where is the chloroplast found in the cell? So it is found in the cytoplasm. So the cytoplasm is just simply the space inside the cell which houses other cell parts such as the nucleus, the cytoplasm, the nucleus, the chloroplast, the mitochondrion, Golgi apparatus, and all those. So very important that you understand this thing. Then what about ribosomes? So that is where protein synthesis take place. So if the cell has ribosomes, just know that proteins are synthesized in the ribosome. So ribosomes mainly are for protein synthesis, or that is where protein synthesis take place. Then we have the cell membrane. Now, what are the functions of a cell membrane, or what is the function of the cell membrane? So the cell membrane is simply controls the entry of material in and out of the cell. So controls what goes in and out of the cell. That is the function of the cell membrane. Now, an effective way of learning as you are going through this lesson, make sure that you have a notebook where you are able to take down the notes. These are perfect notes that you can use for your studies. Anyway, we continue. Let us look at plant cells. So those that we've looked at, by the way, these that we've looked at are found in both plants and animal cells. So sometimes you find the question, which part do they have, or which parts are found in both plants and the animal cell? So these parts that are aligned here, they are found in both plant and animal cell. Now, when we say let us look at the plant cell structures, these are specifically found in the plant cell. So you're not going to find the cell wall in the animal cell, no chloroplast, no vacuole. Now, what are the functions of these plant cell structures? So the cell wall is the outer part of a cell, and it is made up of cellulose. First thing first. The function is to protect the inside cell from mechanical damage. And also you can add to that is the one that prevents the cell from bursting when it absorbs a lot of water. So the cell wall is made up of cellulose and gives support to the plant cell. Aside from that, also protect the cell from bursting when it takes a lot of water. Then what about the chloroplast? It contains green pigment, otherwise known as chlorophyll. And that is where photosynthesis take place. So photosynthesis take place in the chloroplast. Sometimes you be given the cell and now the parts are labeled, then they ask you where does photosynthesis take place, or where is glucose produced. Glucose is produced during the process of photosynthesis. So where photosynthesis take place, that is where even glucose is produced. Then the vacuole contains cell sap and normally is used for storage. Now, aside from that, the vacuole also, it controls the amount of water or the movement of water in and out of a cell depending with its concentration. If it's highly concentrated, water moves into the cell. If it's less concentrated, that water leaves the cell. That is, the concentration of a cell sap determines the movement of water. So basically, these are the cell functions of cell structures. So you need to know those that they have in common, both a plant and animal cell, their functions, and only those that are found in the plant cell. It is going to save you marks. So very important. Now, let us look at the bacterial cell. So for the bacterial cell, it looks like this. I think it's something that we've looked at in the first chapter. If you've not watched that video, it is a variable, and also it has some questions at the end that you answer. So the bacterial cell has the cell wall outside, but not made of chloroplast. It has the cell membrane. Okay, so it has the cell membrane. Very important you understand the part. Then it has the DNA strand. Okay, it has a DNA strand. It does not have a nucleus. It does not have the nucleus, but it has the DNA strand. Then, of course, you're going to find some structures in the form of circle like this, and these are called plasmid. And because of this, it is used in genetic modification. So which structure of the bacterial cell are used in genetic modification, or which organism is used in genetic modification? In this case, we are looking at bacterial cell, and the structure, to be specific, the plasmid. I guess there's no problem up to this point. Maybe just an extra, these extension are called flagella. So we have the flagella at the end right there. All right, now let us look at the organization. Okay, cell organization. Now, a cell is a basic unit of life. Now, cell can divide, make more cells, and more cells or group of cells form what you call a tissue. Then group of tissue form what you call organ. From organ, it forms the system. The system forms the whole organism. So that is how organization is. So we are saying new cells are produced by division of existing cells. How are new cells produced? By the cell division of already existing cells. And this process is called mitosis, which produces identical cells. So a single cell divide to make two identical cells, which are further divide to form more cells. So as you can see here, the process of mitosis, we have one cell here. It is preparing itself for division. Finally, it divides into two. These two cells are identical to the parent cell. Now, these two cells can further divide and, of course, form about four cells. These can divide and form. So that is how the multiplication gets to move. So cells that are produced by this process are identical, which means what they contain is identical. In other words, they are genetically identical. Now, if we are to follow it, it all starts with the smallest part, which is the cell. From a cell, it forms a tissue. So here what you are able to see is the tissue. So we have an animal cell here. Then we have the muscle cells here, which are, or which is a tissue because it's made up of group of muscle cells. Then, of course, from a lot of tissue forms an organ, and we have a liver here as an organ. So this is an organ. Then we have the system, might be the digestive system that is there, but this is a system. Then now we have an entire organism. So that is how cell organization, or that is how it moves from the cell to the tissue to the organ, system, and organism finally. So basically that is how it is. Multiple choice questions, you find which one lower and of course higher, whatever the question is, but I guess we are going to look at those questions. Specialized cells, let us look at the specialized cells. Now, when you talk of specialized cells, we know that where we are coming from, a cell is made or cells are made from already existing cells. Now, when these cells are made, when they are still small or when they're still young, they are same in terms of what they contain, shape, and also structure. But as they tend to grow, they attain specific features, undergoes changes in their cytoplasm, and that is what we call cell specialization. Simply, they undergo these changes to be suitable for their new role or the functions. So cell specialization is just a process by which the cell undergo changes in their cytoplasm or chemical component of the cytoplasm, attain some features just to be suitable for their functions. So examples of specialized cells that we are going to look at here, and what is important is to understand these specialized cells. One, the ciliated cell. So you're going to look at the ciliated cell, the root hair cell, the palisade mesophyll cells. Then we look at the neurons, red blood cells, sperm cells, and also the egg cells, otherwise sperm and egg cell known as gametes, which are just sex cells. So these are specialized cells that we are going to focus on, and very important, these do come in an exam. All right, so this is the list of specialized cells. So the first one, as you can see, this is the ciliated cells. Then we have here, we have root hair cells, root hair cell. Then these that are here, these are called palisade mesophyll cells. Then, of course, this is the red blood cell. Then this is the sperm cell. Then this is the egg cell. Then this is the neuron. So these are specialized cells that we focus on. Now, what is the function of the ciliated cell? So the ciliated cell simply removes dust and it removes mucus. Let me say it removes mucus and dust containing what? Containing germs. It removes mucus and dust containing germs from the respiratory tract. So take note of that as you are going through this part. So remove mucus and dust containing germs. That is from the respiratory tract. But these are also found in the oviduct where they move the ovum toward the uterus, and that is just move the ovum or the egg toward the uterus. One function. So they are found in the respiratory tract or in the oviduct. Then what about the root hair cell? So root hair cell. So now before we go to the root hair cell, sometimes you might be asked of the adaptations. Adaptation, we are just looking at the parts that make these to perform their function. That is sweeping out dust. So it has what we call the cilia on top there, and these cilia are able to move. So sometimes you find which part of which cells or specialized cells contain parts that move. Okay, so this cilia is able to move or beat just to sweep out dust containing or mucus containing dust and germs that is in the respiratory tract. In the ovum, they're able to move they're able to beat or to move so that they push the ovum from the ovaries. Then root hair cell. As you can see, root hair cell, normally the function is simply absorption of water and mineral salts from the ground, absorption of water and mineral salts from the ground. Now, what adaptation do they have? So they have this elongated outgrowth. Okay, this is not a tail, but elongated outgrowth to create a large surface area for the absorption of what? Absorption of water. So take note of that as you go through as well. So the main function of the root hair cell is simply absorption of water and mineral salts from the ground. Okay, water is absorbed by osmosis, mineral salt by active transport. We are going to look at that under transport across the membrane. So the specialized cells have the features which is elongated outgrowth that enables it to create a large surface area for the absorption of water and mineral salt. Also, they are numerous in number to create a large surface area for absorption of water. Okay, let us look at the palisade mesophyll. Now, these contain what you call chlorophyll, and that is where photosynthesis takes place. So they contain chlorophyll that or which absorb light energy used to split water molecule in the process of photosynthesis. So in other words, that is where photosynthesis take place. Sometimes you find a structure like the ovis, then they are labeled, let's say part A, part B, part C, then they ask you where does most photosynthesis take place. So it occurs in these cells. Now you need to know that there is a layer of cells before this, otherwise known as upper epidermis. Then on top there's a cuticle. So don't mistaken the palisade cell or these that are found in the mesophyll and also the epidermal cell. In the epidermal cell, there's no photosynthesis that takes place. Instead, photosynthesis takes place in the palisade mesophyll cells. Then when you talk of a neuron, the neuron is just conduction of nerve impulse. These are the ones that makes us sensitive. So sensitivity is carried out by this one. So they conduct nerve impulse. In the case, let's say you touch on the hot object, you are able to withdraw immediately because the impulse is sent and via neurons. So neurons just for conduction of nerve impulse. Okay. So neurons, what are their adaptations? They have these spikes which are called dendrites. So these just create room for more impulse conduction. Then they have myelin sheath and also the nerve of Lanvia in between that just boosts the transmission of impulse. At the end, they have what you call neural transmitters. I think that is what you are going to look at in detail when you start looking at nervous system. That part is varied or is very important when it comes to the questions in paper 4. That is, paper 4. So you're going to look at that in detail as we look at that is nervous system. So this, we just look at the basics. Then let us look at the red blood cells. So the main function of red blood cell is just transportation of oxygen to all parts of the body. What are the adaptation? It does not have the nucleus to create room for absorption of oxygen. Also dome shaped, I mean not dome shaped, but biconcave shaped. As you can see, it is hollowed in the middle there. So biconcave or disc-like shape just to create room for absorption of oxygen. So that is the adaptation that it has. The function is transportation of oxygen and transportation of oxygen to all parts of the body. All right. Then of course, sperm cell and egg cell. These are just for reproduction. So make sure that you understand these specialized cells, 6 of them. These are very important. Make sure that you know them. All right, so the last part of this, we look at the size of a specimen and we look at magnification in this case. So they are tiny objects or tiny things that we cannot see, or those that we cannot see, that we can see rather. In other words, magnification is simply how many times is the object or the original or the actual image is magnified or enlarged compared to the image, okay, or how big the image compared to the actual object. That is what we call magnification. And normally magnification, we put x in front. So if after calculating you find 10, you say x 10. This shows how many times the actual object has been magnified. So that is what you call magnification. So magnification is calculated by using the formula magnification is equals to actual or image size over actual size. Pay attention. Magnification, image size divide actual size. Now, another thing that you need to understand, this is very important. You need to make sure that the units of the image size and the actual size, they are in millimeter. Now, if you look at the units that are used mostly, you find millimeter and micrometer. Now, this is one thing you should know. Every time you are dividing in terms of magnification, you need to make sure that the units are of the same. That is millimeter. No micrometer, but millimeter. But afterward, the answer can be recorded in whatever, sometimes magnification anyway does not have units. So in other words, here the emphasis is that every time you are dividing, make sure that everything is in millimeter. Now, let us look at the simple conversion. So if you are moving from millimeter to micrometer, if you find something like this symbol represent micro. So this represent micrometer. This represent micrometer. So the conversion is that when you are moving from millimeter to micrometer, millimeter is bigger than micrometer. So millimeter is bigger than micrometer. So when you are moving from millimeter to micrometer, you multiply by 1,000. In other words, you multiply the unit in millimeter by 1,000. Then if you are going back, you divide by 1,000. So if you are given millimeter, then you want to go back to, you are given in micrometer rather, you want to find in millimeter, you divide by 1,000. Why am I saying 100? By 1,000. Okay. So let us look at examples. And the examples that you are going to look at, we are going to do them in terms of the past papers. And of course, I can say that there are quite a number of questions that we are going to find on this particular part.